Hey there, welcome to the virtual table. We are getting ready to play what I consider to be the best RPG of all time. And I know that's a very bold thing for me to say, but anytime I play a board game, and I do a lot of dungeon romping board game coverage, I buy a lot of them, end up not liking most of them, and I either sell them or trade them or whatever. There's a few I've kept. Um, but Wizardry 8 is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of RPGs. And every RPG I play after it is, I want it to be like this one. And it's not to say that this one's perfect, it's just the best one. And it can be better. I just don't know why people haven't made a better one, to be quite honest. Um, the closest I've ever gotten is Obsidian. I really do like the Pillars of Eternity RPGs a lot. I think that those um, give this one a run for its money, but this one, in my opinion, is still near the top. It's just because some of it is just so well done, and I think the biggest thing is this one is perfectly balanced, uh, near perfect balance. It is extremely challenging to play. It requires your best effort. Uh, every character in the game is good. Now, some people will say, well, this character's trash or that one. It's just because it's your playstyle. Every character in this game is good. And when I say good, I mean you can take it and beat the game with it. It is so impressively, I mean, difficult to fathom that they could balance all these asymmetrical characters, but they do. And, anyways, Wizardry 8 implies there's 1 through 7. Now, back in the early 90s, I was introduced to Wizardry. I played it on the Nintendo Wizardry 1. I don't remember the name of it, but it was like basically you start in this tavern and you go 20 levels down, and then the boss was on the 20th level, and heck, I don't even know if he was on the 20th level. I think maybe you skipped 13. I don't remember all the details. I just remember it being an extremely challenging game. It was There was barely any walls. It was your classic early 80s, late 70s RPG, and the Nintendo game was just a remake of the very first Wizardry 1. And so I played that sucker until I beat it. And I was in high school, so I had a lot of free time, a lot more than I do now. And I remember how incredibly difficult it was you had to map every level of the dungeon, and there were teleporters and things that spun you, and there was lots of nasty surprises. Anyways, long story short, 2 through 7, I really never played. I didn't get back into it until Wizardry 8. Now, the thing with Wizardry 8 is that there is this is part of a trilogy. There is a 6 and a 7 that came before it, and I think 6 was Bane of the Cosmic Forge, and 7 was something about the Dark Savant. From a story perspective, there's something there. The Cosmic Forge did get meddled with in 6, and then basically the creators, whoever those are, have 3 artifacts, and they kept them in the Cosmic Circle. This game is going to be about the Cosmic Circle, and those 3 artifacts. The Astro Domine or whatever is going to be the key thing that we're trying to find. But anyways, to ascend the Cosmic Circle, basically you got to learn the knowledge of the gods, and then eventually you can ascend it and win the prize. It's almost like a competition. And so we're going to be starting on a planet called Domine, or Dominus, or something like that. Please forgive me for not remembering everything. And it's almost like we're there along with all these other races, and we're all competing to win this prize. And we're looking for the lost knowledge or these lost artifacts of the gods so we can ascend the Cosmic Circle. I know I may have butchered some of the theme, but that's pretty much what it is. When you first land, it's not going to be very obvious to you that that's what you're trying to do. I think if I've played 6 or 7, it might be more obvious. There is an introduction here, which has a nice little story that I mostly just regurgitated for you. It gives you some of the background. Um, some people will say, because here's the thing, you can play 6 to completion, and then import your characters into 7 to completion, and then you can import your characters into 8. So that is all possible. I don't necessarily recommend it because the number of hundreds of hours it would take you to do that would be tremendous. But Wizardry 8 sort of changed the way all the characters work anyways. I don't know how valuable it would be. That's, I guess, where my bottom line is. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce you to this game. And I am not the first to do it. This game came out in 2001. It will show its age. It's not perfect, like I said, and there's tons of other people who have done playthroughs of this. So you're not going to necessarily glean anything new from me, but I am massively playing this right now, and I wanted to introduce you to it because to me this is like a disservice not to. And it's available on Steam, and it works fantastic. So anyways, let's get going. So you can see here that we have some characters, and this is a party of a game that I'm already playing right now. So I can't do anything to make them disappear or anything. I could delete them. I guess I don't... yeah, let's do that. We'll delete them. Alright. So, step number 1 of why I love this game and why it's the best of all time is I get to create a party of 6 characters. I don't know why some of you guys, and I say you guys as a general sense, not you individually, and I'm basically talking as if I had the whole world at my attention, which YouTube allows me to do. So when I say you guys, I'm referring to the gaming community at large. They really love the idea of creating one character and doing a whole RPG with only that one character the entire time. How utterly boring that is for me. And it doesn't matter that you can play as a warrior the first time and then you can switch to a magic user the second time. It is so utterly boring to me. Like, I hate those kind of games. And that's not to say that I haven't played them, because sometimes they're still well made and I can still find some enjoyment out of them. But they definitely do not make the top RPG of all time. This does. And one of the primary requisites of what it takes is I can have a party of 6 characters. And then, on top of that, I can pick up 2 NPCs, so that way I eventually have a party of 8 by the time I'm rocking and rolling. And that is a prerequisite. If there's any game that's going to topple this one, it must have a party size of a minimum of 6. And Baldur's Gate 3 does not hit that mustard. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 came close, and you could argue that those are actually really fantastic RPGs. I wouldn't disagree. In fact, I think those are pretty darn good, and they would be a very close second. The reason this one edges out over those is because this one's perfectly balanced for every character class, and Baldur's Gate is not, because Baldur's Gate is based off of D&D rules, which does not have character class balancing. Excuse me. Okay, so that's step 1. All right, 6 characters. When you go to create a character, there are professions. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 15 classes here. Okay, that you get to choose from. And then you're going to have 11 races. And of course, this is back when life wasn't so confusing. Okay. So, 15 classes. I think I said 11 races, and it's any combination. So you can have, you can make a fairy any one of these classes. It doesn't matter. There's no restrictions. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 of this is that you have primary attributes that don't change per character. And you can see, they're basically like you would expect them to be. There's some nuances that I'll explain. And then these are derived statistics, meaning you don't have direct control over them. But as you give yourself more strength and vitality, these, of course, will change. And then, of course, there's profession skills, which is based on, like, the alchemist provides these skills. And then these are abilities and traits. Some of these are provided by the alchemist, so you can see how it's changing, and some of it's because it's a fairy, and if I switch it to a lizardman, you got different. And then you have resistance modifiers down here, and that's resistance to magic, and this is also important. So basically, a mage, for example, requires an intelligence of 60 and a dexterity of 55. All right, and the lizardman starts with these traits. So you can see his intelligence is clearly not 60. It's a 25. It's super duper low. And what basically happens is they have a certain number of bonus points. And so what the game did is, if I need a mage, a minimum intelligence of 60 is necessary. So the game took this lizardman that only had a 25 intelligence and spent a whole bunch of the bonus points until it could get up to 60, which is what's necessary to make a mage. And then after it spent all the bonus points necessary, there were 10 left over. So I don't know if I really want to calculate it, but just to go from 25 to 60, you could tell he had a lot of bonus points to spend, right? And so he spent a very lion's share of them to get that intelligence up. He also needed to get dexterity to 55, and the dexterity was at 40. So there was another 15 points spent on the dexterity. And then you could see that his vitality is naturally a 70, and then boom. So all these other numbers are his natural numbers, and then he spent a crap ton of bonus points to get his intelligence up, and another 15 to get the dexterity up. So then I have 10 left over, and so I could spend, and what it does is it lets me spend 4 per attribute. It basically divides it by 3. So I can pick 3 of these attributes, and for example, since it's a mage, I would make my intelligence go up, my piety go up, and whatever, right? So obviously I only have 10 points to spend, so it lets me do 4 in 2 of them, and then 2 in another. I could always change it however I like, or I could even, do something like this. It doesn't matter. The point is I can't go over 4 in a secondary one. Alright, so this is at a high level how the character creation works. Now, once I get, figure out whether it's male or female, then you hear the ding, and there's this little thing that lets you go next page. So here you get to pick your spells if you're a spellcaster. I'm just going to go ahead and pick one. I still have 1 spell left over. I'm going to just say OK. And then I have skills. And then this is what makes this game excellent and puts it above the rest. So these skills are things that you level up as you get better and better, and they can level up on their own just by using them. So if I use a dagger in the game, every time I hit somebody with a dagger, I have the potential of increasing my skill in dagger. So this number will keep going up and up and up just from using the dagger until I hit 100. Then I also have 5 points that I can allocate right now to 3 different skills. And every time I level up, it's going to give me 3 points to 3 different skills. Or, well, I say 3 different skills. It's giving me 15 points. So I can put 1 point in 15 different skills if I truly wanted to. So when I say 3 different skills, I guess that's a misnomer. I have 15 points to spend. I can only spend as much as 5 in 1 skill. So Wizardry, of course, would get 1. And then, I want him to be a fire mage, so he would get 5 more. Or I could try to, divide it up. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to get at. But, I want to make him a fire mage. And then, let's make him good at identifying unknown items, right? So that's what artifacts does. So if I did that, then I get to name my character, pick his picture, all that stuff, and then we're rocking and rolling. All right? So that's how character creation works. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about, and I know this is crazy, but I'm getting out the spreadsheet. So, this is it looks like gobbledygook, But this is actually the party that I made that I'm currently doing my playthrough. And I'm very happy with this party. But let's go ahead and do a new sheet. And so we have... this is something that's just easier to see than it is for me to explain. So there is what you call basic tier, and then there's magic tier, then there's advanced, and then there's expert. Alright, so the expert is the bishop and the ninja. And these are professions, or what you would call character classes. Alright, the advanced is the samurai, monk, ranger, and I'm missing one. Give me a second. Samurai, let's see. Wizardry, psionics, lord, and Valkyrie. Alright, then the magic tier is priest, mage, psionic, and alchemist. And then the basic tier is bard, gadgeteer, rogue, fighter. I think that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14. That's 15. Okay, perfect. Alright, and then when it comes to the races, you have human, hobbit, Dracon, wizard, they're the cats. I think they're called Pharaoh something. And then there's Ray Wolf, which is the dogs. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gnome, dwarf, elf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm missing 2. What 2 am I missing? Fairy. Spelled that way. I am missing one more. Let's see, there's the cat, the dog, the lizard, the dragon, a hobbit, human, dwarf, gnome, elf. Dang it, which one am I missing? Felper. The mook. How could I forget the mook? Alright, and then this is Felper. Okay. So, basically, you have a party of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 characters, and then you get a 7th and an 8th through NPCs. Alright. So, everything is up to debate. There is an NPC for every class, just about, out here. Except for maybe the magic tiers. I don't remember finding an NPC that's a magic tier. I know there's an NPC of... Well, I don't know if there's a samurai either. There's definitely NPCs for all the basics. But anyways, what are the 2 best NPCs in my humble opinion? They have an awesome monk. And they have an awesome Valkyrie. But in the very early part of the game, you don't get the monk right away. It takes a while to get to him. So then you could get the rogue and the Valkyrie from the start. And so these are the 2 that I ultimately like. But these 2 you get right away. And they're both, as far as I'm concerned, decent. If you do some Googles... there are people who don't like the NPCs, and I'll explain why. It's a very simple problem. Basically, the way experience points work in this game is if there's 1,000 experience points for killing some baddies, and I have 1 character, you can solo this game. You don't need 6 characters in your party. If I have 1 character, he gets all 1,000. If I have 6 characters, it's 1,000 divided by 6. And if I have 8, it becomes 1000 divided by 8. So you can see why some people don't like adding the 7th and 8th. When you solo the game, you get all the experience for yourself. Of course, it's a lot harder because you're doing it all by yourself. With the larger parties, the game gets a little bit easier, but at the same time, the experience gets divided more and more, and so you're not going to reach the higher levels. I think you can go all the way up to level 50 in this game. Don't quote me on it. I could be wrong. You're only going to get to maybe 20, 24, somewhere in the early 20s before you beat it. If you're playing a 6-character party or a 7th and 8th character party. Honestly, I don't think the 7 and 8 makes that much of a difference, because by the end of the game, you're talking about millions of experience before you level up again. And the fact that you're dividing by 6 or dividing by 8 almost doesn't matter anymore when you're talking about getting 1,000,000 experience points. You will get nowhere near the level 50 that the game allows you to do with your one playthrough. Now, I've been told that if you import parties from playing Wizardry 6 and 7, that you could get closer to the 50. I'm not sure. I never verified it. I never played 6 or 7. The last thing is when you play a solo character, you could get up. I don't know how high you end up going. I don't think you get to 50, but I think you get into the 30s. And then the last thing to mention with this, at least experiences, is that the areas spawn baddies equal to your level, plus or minus a few. And whether it's plus or minus 1 level, 2 levels, I think that varies based on the area. But here's the key thing. If you create a solo character and you're somehow powerful enough to win and not die, and you're raking in all this experience points, you could leave the monastery, which is like the first dungeon that you do. And when you leave the monastery, you could be level 20 for all that I know, right? Normally when you leave the monastery, you're going to be like level 4 or 5 with a 6-character party. It doesn't matter what level you are. the area that you enter is going to spawn bad guys that are equal to your level. So if you're playing a single character, leveling up by yourself, you're just going to deal with tougher enemies sooner than a 6-character party would. And when you leave an area and then eventually come back to that area, the spawns are going to match your level again. So it's not... The game is never, you're never going to have a boring zone or a safe zone. Or hey, I cleared this area, and when I come back to it, it's not going to be, everything's going to be a pushover. It's rarely that way. I mean, the game just spanks you all the time. And, of course, the higher level enemies drop more and more experience points. So you sort of want that. But this game is not for the meek. Now, there is a YouTube video of this guy who completely beat the game in 26 minutes. It is an amazing video to watch. You're not going to understand at all what happened because he's using some kind of glitch cheat with teleporters to do it. I honestly, he's truly using a glitch to pull it off. But he did it in 26 minutes. I don't even know if I can create my characters in 26 minutes. This game, and you're definitely not going to clear the monastery, and it's going to take you more than 2 hours clear the monastery. It's just, this game is monstrous. All right, now that you understand how experience point distribution works, and why some people don't want an 8-character party, they only want 6, or they may only want 4, right? The world's your oyster here. You can do whatever you want. Now, you'll notice that I also created some tiers, and the best way to do this is let's say to get to level 1, the basic tier needs 1,000 experience points, but the magic tier needs 1,200 experience points. The advanced tier would need 1,500 experience points, and then the expert, I think, don't quote me on this, is 1,800 experience points. So you can see how some of these characters will level up faster than others. And at level 2, it's not linear, by the way, but I'm going to make it linear just for demonstration purposes. You know, uh, so there you go. Now you need 2,000 experience, and here you need 3,600 experience to get your bishop or ninja to level 2. And then by the time level 3 comes, you know, at 4,000 experience, you've already leveled up. And let's say this was 8,000 here. You know, these numbers are just going to get higher and higher. And then this is like 14.4 and so forth. So you're going to be hitting level 3 with these classes while you just barely made level 2 with those. And even though my numbers aren't going to be exact, what the experience table is, you can just Google it to see what the experience tables are like. This is a problem. And when it comes to areas spawning baddies equal to your level, this is something you need to know in order to create your characters. That's why I'm bringing all this stuff up now. This is all part of character creation. So, let's say I had 5 characters. I had 5 basic, plus 1 ninja. What's going to end up happening is those basic guys are going to level up, level up, level up. And so what it does is it takes the average level of the party to determine spawns. And so if you got that one ninja who's low level while everybody else is high level, he's going to not be able to penetrate the armor class or hit these higher level monsters. And so he's going to come across really weak in your party. Now, one way you can solve it is, and I've done this before, I've created a 5 ninja plus 1 bishop party. That party rocks. It's a little redundant at times, but I was actually able to tear it up. And they all level up at the same rate, so you don't ever have to worry about baddies spawning that are higher level than you. Now, I haven't gotten into what all the different classes do, but this is an extremely powerful party, actually, but I wouldn't recommend it for your first time. There's also people solo ninjas all the time. Like, if anybody's going to solo the game, ninja is the primo choice. Because the ninja is basically the jack of all trades. He can do everything in this game. There's certain spells he can't cast, things like that, but like, he has the ability to do just about everything. And so people who play solo will choose the ninja. And to be more specific, they'll choose the fairy ninja just because of one cane that drops in the game that is uber powerful. And only fairies can use them. Then the king. Only fairy ninjas, in fact. Now, what's also cool about this game is the game actually provides you with stuff to help you solo. So, for example, in the first dungeon, you're going to come across traps, and you need lockpicking. If you chose a character that doesn't have any lockpicking skills at all, this rogue is one of the first characters you can hire. But until you get there, there's this one spot where a cap drops that gives you plus 10 lockpicking skill. So it allows you to pick the locks of the early level dungeon until you can find the rogue. So it gives you just enough so you can survive the early dungeon until you meet up with the rogue and can hire him. And then, of course, you'd have to use him from then on out because that plus 10 is not going to do you diddly. So it's just part of the reason why this is the best game. Now that you understand some of these basic things, let's dive into the classes, and you understand the whole concept of an expert class doesn't mix very well with the basic tiers. And this is your first lesson of the day. So with the basic tier, having a fighter, rogue, bard, gadgeteer, that is actually an awesome party, if you ask me. You can beat the game with that, and then you just pick Magic User 1 and Magic User 2. You're going to win the game with that. That is a well-balanced, fine party. In fact, there's no reason you can't, and most people would suggest that should be your first party. So these basic tiers, don't let the word basic fool you. they are super powerful. In fact, the fighter is arguably the highest damage dealer in the game. The rogue is arguably either the second highest or the highest, depending on who you talk to. The bard is indispensable, according to certain people. The gadgeteer is probably the only one that people aren't quite as convinced on. And then the two magic users, most people would tell you to take the priest and the mage, and you're rocking. Priest and mage, by the way, the magic tier, the difference in experience points is not that much. So having two magic users fall a little bit behind, not a big deal. They're going to basically be the same level as the basics the whole way through. So you're not going to have a problem. And having 4 basics plus 2 magic tier, that's an extremely fantastic party. And we could create that, and I could show you how that works. But I'm going to leave that to you if you decide to play the game to try it out. Now, I'm going to explain why I don't like doing this party. And some of it's because I've played it before. And this turns into a boring party eventually. But it's hard to explain why without getting into some of the details here. So, for example, a fighter, let's say he's going to use swords, right? So he's going to have a skill in swords. He's going to be good using close combat, and he's going to... well, that's it. He's going to either use dual wield or shields, right? So I'm just going to use CC. So remember, you get to put 5 points towards 3 different skills. So I'd put 5 points of this, 5 points of this, 5 points of this. Then every time I level up, I put 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. Because every time you level up, you get 9 points to give out to your skills. So a fighter is going to put points into those 3 skills, and eventually you're going to hit 100. Then what? There's nothing left for a fighter to get. There's no other skills that they need. There is this thing called mythology, which you could start pumping up. Mythology is, and let's talk about some of these skills, in fact. So you got your weapon skills, which is, sword, mace, wand, throwing, which includes slings, and axe. I might be missing one, but you got the gist. You got close combat, shield, dual wield, and then you have ranged. I'm missing the bow. The bow would be another weapon skill up here. So we just put it up here. The bow. Come on. I just dropped my mouse. Okay. Alright, so then you can keep going. So, then those are all like combat skills, right? Then you have certain skills that you must have, or you have like general. I'll call these general skills. One is called communication, and this is like your barter skill. And then you also have mythology. This is the ability to identify monsters and determine weaknesses. And in your first game, it's actually really important to have that. You could arguably play the whole game without using mythology, because you just have all the monsters memorized. But you gotta, you have to play the game quite a lot to get to that point. But I would say it's not critical, but it is a nice to have. You also have like scouting, music, engineering. These are like skills that only specific professions use, but they're still very important. And then you have lockpicking, which is what it says. It's critical. you can't play the game without somebody doing lockpicking. And then also, there is pickpocket, which I think is nerfed and is probably the one thing in this game that isn't very good. So, buyer beware on this one. What else is... Oh, there's artifacts. And this is the ability to identify items. And I think for now, that covers the majority of it. Okay, so, you got this fighter here. He can do swords, close combat, and whether he's a sword and board, you would get shields, or you could do dual wield, which would allow him to use two weapons. Or if you want him to do a two-handed weapon, then you can also have him take on mythology. Because mythology, having the fighter being able to identify the enemies, that's a pretty good combo. So, for the first, 15 levels, fighter, takes these skills and eventually hits 100, and then there is nothing left to do. So, this is what I mean by it gets boring. But if it's your first game, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to spend your skill points where you're supposed to. You're not going to be an expert at knowing I got to put points into this, but not that. And so you could make those mistakes, and because he only needs a certain set of skills to be successful at what he does, not only is it basic, but it works. And like I said, he's the highest damage dealer in the game. It's not like this is a pushover punk. I mean, you make a party with these guys in it, you're going to do fantastic. That's the thing that makes this game so well balanced. The only mistake you can make is to throw in some ninjas and bishops, which then makes the party balance with the experience points go a little off kilter. That's the only mistake you can make. So at this point, you have more than enough you need. Pick any of these you want, and you can make yourself a nice party. Now, when it comes to casting, they so the way it works is a mage, for example, needs to learn Wizardry. And that would be another one of these skills. So there's also the magic skills. So there's Wizardry, which is the mage. There's Psionics, which is the psionic. I know it's... and then you have Divinity, which is your priest. And then you have Alchemy, which is your alchemist. Alright, so spells have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 7 levels of spells. So for example, at level 1, Wizardry, you can learn the light spell, which can light up a dungeon. At level 3 Wizardry, you can learn Fireball, right? And so there are certain spells that you can't learn until you get to that level. So the way it works is that the Wizardry skill, level 1, you just need 0 skill. You can start learning Wizardry level 1 spells right away. Then you need, I think, to get to... I don't even remember the number. Is it 8? Could be 8. This could be 15. I don't remember the numbers. This might be 25, and then 40, and then 50, and then, let's just say, 70. Who knows? I truly don't remember. Don't hold me to these numbers. But the point I'm trying to get at is that you need to put points in those skills, and the quicker they get the points, the quicker they learn the higher level spells. Okay? Now, those spells become available to them. They don't automatically learn them. They have to spend spell points to learn them, or they have to find a book, and they can learn it from a book. The books, of course, mostly cost money, or you can find them in dungeons. And, of course, learning the spell that way is free, but every time they level up, they get a spell point where they can learn a spell automatically. And in fact, you saw when I created that character earlier, I made the mage and he started the game with 2 spells. Remember, I spent 1 point and I saved the other one. So you can save the points and for later. Because maybe you want to get all the level 7 spells as soon as level 7 becomes available. Well, you should save up your points so you don't have to go. And in fact, there are no books for the level 7 spells. So you have to use points to get the level 7 spells. But these early level spells, especially 1 through 4, there's books for just about all of them. There's a few exceptions, but okay. So now that you understand how you have to raise your wizardry, the next thing that happens is that you have different realms. So you have like a fire realm, a divine realm, a mental realm, and then there's air, or I'm sorry, water, and earth. I might be missing one, but that covers most of it. So, sticking with the mage theme, light is a fire, and so is fireball. But another mage spell that's out there is enchant weapon. And that is not a mental, it is a divine. So that would go there. And then for the water, it would be frost. And then and for earth, I can't remember an earth one at the moment, but you get the gist. So these are skills as well. So the way this would work is a level 1, so a mage that has 0 skill, fire, trying to cast light. There's going to be these little radio buttons that show what level do you want to cast. Level 1, level 2, level 3. I think it goes all the way up to level 7. Don't confuse that with the spell level. The level that you're casting is like your power level. Like if you are, for example, casting a fireball against some low level guys, a power level 1 is all you need, and at power level 1 it might do, 4 to 5 damage per power level, right? And so if you do a power level 4, then you're doing 4 to 5 damage per power level, so that would be 4 to 5 damage times 4. So you get the gist. Well, the skill, you need skill in that realm in order to achieve those higher power levels. So with 0 skill, you're not even able to cast a level 1. I think you have to get to like 3 skill. And then the level 1 spells become yellow, meaning you got a good chance it'll succeed, but it's not guaranteed. And it's not until you start getting to 10, 20, 30, that's when, so there's going to be like these lights, and I'll show you. Let's come back over to here. So I'm just going to pick a mage again. Doesn't matter who he is. Right, so here's where you select your spells. You got your 2 spells, so I'm just going to pick these 2. Oh, there's air. I think the air is the one I'm missing. Alright, and this is what I'm talking about. Wizardry is the skill. And so at level 8, he's only able to learn level 1 magic spells. I can put 5 points into that. And that 13 would allow me to learn level 2 spells. But only once I level up again. And then for the fire magic, water magic, etc., see how these different realms exist? He's got 4 realms, basically. So the reason I couldn't think of an earth realm is I don't think there are earth realm spells for him. Interesting. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know there's divinity spells for him. Oh, but see, it's not showing up as... So I can't choose divinity at the moment. But there's 2 more realms that he's going to eventually learn spells in. So I could say, okay, I definitely want to do fire. And then by making that a 12, he's going to be more successful at casting fire spells, meaning the spell won't fizzle. And then on top of it, he's going to be able to cast it at higher power levels as well. So this will become more apparent once we start playing. It'll make a lot more sense. Okay. And you know what I think we should do? I think we should create a basic party just to demonstrate the point. And then we could then do a more advanced party like later. So what we could do is we could create a basic party, do the monastery, which is the first level dungeon, and then come back and make a more advanced party once you get the hang of it. Yeah, I think that's better than looking at a stupid spreadsheet. So my apologies. I'm 45 minutes in and we've been looking at a spreadsheet most of the time. Last thing I want to do, I know I'm going back to the spreadsheet, is I just want to talk about the races real quick. The human has extra points. The Hobbit is the best race. Okay, so I know that the spreadsheet thing is probably a little unorthodox, but the best race in the game is the Hobbit. The Dracon can spit fire. The Lizard, of course. Actually, you know what? Let's create our characters and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm gonna create a very basic party that's good enough to win the game for you. Let's go ahead and do it. So first one would be a fighter. And the best character for a fighter in the game, many people would tell you, is the Lizardman. And here's why. Look at him. He's got 60 strength, 70 vitality, and he's just rocking it. There's a couple flaws to this guy. There's reasons why I would not choose this, although you could beat the game with this. The first one is he has a -10 to mental resistance. You're going to face enemies that are going to confuse you, stun you, or even like turncoat you and make you attack your own party. So remember I said the fighter is the highest damage dealer in the game? So now he's going to turn around and attack my magic users. You see where I'm going? That -10 mental resistance doesn't seem like a lot, but it's huge. This is also huge though, because he has a 50-point bonus. So I can put 17 points in here, and then put 17 points into there, and look at that. He's got a ton of hit points. And then we could do dexterity or speed. In this case, I would do dexterity, and then boom, I'm at 66. You do that, you got yourself a great character. Now, one thing I didn't mention yet is when strength gets to 100, you then get what's called Power Strike. When each of these get to 100, you get like a huge bonus. So for strength, it's Power Strike, which allows you to penetrate higher level enemies. So enemies' armor against you is greatly reduced, because the Power Strike basically means you will not be denied when you swing your weapon. For intelligence, you get a Magic Strike, which is like, it's just like Power Strike, but for the magic purpose. For piety, I don't remember what you get actually. It's in the manual, but basically, I think you get like an immunity to disease. Now, vitality, that one could be the immunity to disease. Now that I think about it, one of these gives you like resistance to magic, and another one gives you resistance to physical damage. And then speed will give you a huge jump to your initiative. And then the senses will let you do range damage. So basically it's Power Strike for range attacks. Okay? Alright. So, it does a good job of explaining to you, for example, strength will do your carry capacity and your stamina. So, as you can see here, with your vitality, every time I reduce vitality, the carry capacity is actually changing. And then I did 2 vitality and the stamina dropped by 1. And see how... So it's not every single... So it's like a 1 point... There's a decimal involved here, right? Well, with strength, it does the same thing. So you can see the lowering the strength also causes the stamina and the carrying capacity to go down. And then the vitality... I eventually lost a hit point, but it took a long time. So each of these contributes to your various derived fields. In a nutshell, strength is how much damage you do and carrying capacity, but it also influences things like your stamina and your hit points. Intelligence is mostly your ability to cast spells. So it's the strength of your spells. So it's just like strength for melee weapons, except for spells. However, intelligence also controls how quickly those skills go up as you use them. So remember I said you can put 3 points into each skill every time you level up. These skills will go up on their own. You don't have to put any points into them, and they go up automatically. And higher intelligence makes that happen. And this is a really tricky and highly debated topic on how much intelligence should your characters have. And in this case, a 25 intelligence means your fighter's not going to go up much. But you could argue that, hey, he's a basic fighter. He only had 4 skills that I identified that he ever needs the whole game. You don't need him to go up. You can just pump him up yourself every time he levels up. So that is a good point to be made. Piety usually influences how many mana points you get. So this is your strength of your attack, but this is your mana points. They're never that simple. Like intelligence also contributes to your mana points, but piety is mostly a dump stat for somebody that's melee. However, it does contribute to your resistances, and I'm pretty darn sure when you get this to 100, that's what lets you. It gives you like a plus 10 to all your magic resists, I think is what it does. The vitality gives you the bonus against the protection against diseases. The dexterity gives you the plus 10 AC, armor class, etc. Dexterity is your ability to hit. So you swing your weapon. Whether or not you hit, dexterity is going to be your primary factor. The strength doesn't come in until you actually hit. So you can have 100 strength but low dexterity. If you keep missing, your strength doesn't do anything for you. Speed is how many times you swing your weapon. And yes, you can swing your weapon multiple times per round if your speed's high enough. And then your senses is, it shows you there's a lot of skills that are use senses, including close combat and critical strike and dual weapons. So senses, it is a must-have if you're doing an archer. For everybody else, it's a nice-to-have. And maybe it's a must-have also for your thief, like for pickpocketing and lockpicking. Senses is really good. But it also improves your initiative in combat. Now, arguably, intelligence causes your skills to go up the more you use them. Senses also helps your skills to go up the more you use them. So, a little bit of both really goes a long way. But the Lizardman is by far the most, at least from a stats perspective, the most equipped to be a good fighter. Now, another one, they do have slower magic power recovery, but who cares? Fighters don't use magic, right? So that makes the Lizardman even more perfect. Has the Berserk attack option. That's because of a fighter. He can knock out opponents. He gets stamina regeneration. That's the Lizardman. Every time they swing a weapon, they lose stamina. So the Lizardman's going to basically always do well there. And, of course, the fighter gets a combat skill bonus, which you'll see here. So see this blue? He gets a bonus to that one. So whatever the value is, he gets a 25% bonus to it. So if you get a skill up to 100, which I said was the highest you can go, he can actually get this skill up to 125. There's only one skill in the game that doesn't go above 100. I mean, it goes to 125, but it gives you no bonus whatsoever if it's above 100, and that's dual weapons. And the Lord has that bonus. So if you're ever creating a Lord class, the dual weapons does you no good once it's over 100. So you could raise this up to like a 90, and because of the 25% bonus, you're going to be at 100 already, and that's good enough. You don't need to raise it anymore. But for the close combat, 125 is amazing. It does affect your success when attacking, so it combines with dexterity. Everything in this game is a complicated formula for sure. So for a fighter, you would want close combat, you would want your sword, and then you would want either a shield, if you're doing sword and board, or dual weapons, if you're going to carry one in each hand. Now, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Now, another, like I was saying, what other things would you spend points in? Well, mythology would be a good option. But I also forgot bow and range combat, also helpful. The game has a wonderful capacity to switch weapons automatically. So if all the enemies are out of range, he'll automatically switch to his bow and shoot his bow. And if they're in range, he'll switch to his sword and use his sword. So it's a fantastic, like every fighter is going to have some kind of ranged weapon. And so yeah, that's something else he could spend points in. Okay, what other options do you have? Well, another popular option is the Dracon. So it's like a dragon class, and you can see here his intelligence is a little bit better. His senses are really low, but his strength and his vitality is nowhere near as good. He can breathe acid, so he actually has an acid attack, and you can see that his resistances aren't as bad. Instead of -10, they're a -5. But remember I told you the Hobbit's like the best class in the game? It is. I mean, he has no resistances, and these numbers aren't that much worse than... now, it's worse than the Lizardman by far, but compared to the Dracon, it's not much worse. His intelligence is a lot higher, so he'll learn skills better, and that sense has jumped up from a 35 to a 50. So, arguably speaking, this might actually be a better race, but it'll take you longer to get these skills up to 100. With the Lizardman, he'll be close to 100. Who would I pick? Well, actually, one of the things, if you study the game, is to pick a Mook. Because there's a double-handed sword that only Mooks can use, and a lot of people will do that. And you can see here's the thing. The drawback to the Mook is the speed is super low, so you'll spend a long time raising this up before he'll ever get to swing his sword more than once. But double-hand swords are slow in the first place, so maybe it's not an issue. Another option is the Dwarf. The Dwarf has a damage resistance that's inherent to the race. So, yes, he will just literally reduce the amount of damage you receive every time. His speed and senses are both low. His intelligence is low, but all of his other numbers are right where you want them to be. But remember, we're doing a basic party just to show you how basic party. So let's do the old-fashioned way. We're going to do Lizardman. So I'm going to get the dexterity up and the vitality up. Now, one thing you'll see some people do is instead of putting the 16 in vitality, they'll pump up the intelligence. Just because they want them to learn those skills a little bit better. Now, you'll see some people also do this instead, because even though this doesn't have as much of a direct impact on skills growing, it still helps your skills to grow quicker, and it helps your close combat skill. There's arguments to be made anyway, and it's why this is the king of RPGs. You have so many awesome choices to make right now. But I'm going to go ahead and let's just do it the classic way. We'll do vitality. And then I put my points into these things, and do I really want to do dual weapons? You know what, let's do sword and board. That's the classic way, right there. Yep, and we'll make it sword. Axes, just a warning, are the worst weapons in the game. There's no good axes in the whole game. Ignore axes. There's good polearms, there's good maced flails, everything else there's good. I would not recommend axes. Okay, so then you got, so I'm going to call him Fighty. Now, you might get an issue because I'm alt-tabbing in and out. I was trying to type and nothing was happening. You just have to hit the Control and Alt key, and then it allows you to fight again. And then you have different voices, which are awesome.
You want me fight? I fight.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll go ahead and choose him. And so there you go. We got one down. Next one we want to do is a rogue. And the best rogue, I'm going to go a little bit quicker. It's the Hobbit. And we're going to go ahead and do a male rogue. Alright, so with the rogue, you need dexterity. It's your top item. Senses. is another top item, and then either speed or strength. There's people who make an argument for intelligence, but that's more advanced. So I'm going to go ahead and go with, I'm going to go with speed. And should I go with speed? No, I shouldn't. Although that is a fantastic way to go. I'm going to go with strength. Alright, you want to get your locks and traps up. You want to get your stealth up. And then you want to get your dual weapons and daggers up. And your close combat. So look, you all of a sudden got more skills than you can care to put your stuff in. So what you could do instead is I'm going to do 2, 4, 6. I'm going to go ahead and do, 3 in those. There we go. Alright. And you got some nice options here. So we're going to call this guy Sneaky. And
just between you and me, I'm the perfect guy for this job. What do you say?
Alright, we'll go ahead and go with that voice. Alright, so boom, boom. And then I said we wanted to make a bard. Again, what makes the best bard? There's a lot of choices. I'm going to go with Hobbit again. Your bard must be female. There's items you'll get in the game. Your bard needs stamina. Everything they do when they do their... you ever played the old Bard's Tale where the throat gets parched? Playing the musical instruments uses up stamina. And there's objects that are female only that will improve stamina over time, like these amulets. And you you will hate life if you made your hobbit a male. This is the only time where the gender really, really matters. I'm sure there's a few others, but this is the big one. So bards need dexterity, big time, and then they also need from here. It's really your choice what you want to do. I would say piety's the only thing they don't need. I'm going to go ahead and do senses. Then for the third one, I'm going to do strength, because they got to carry a lot of different instruments. And it also helps improve the stamina by improving the strength. You know what? I'm going to reduce the senses. I'm going to do vitality. That improves the stamina big time. Alright, communication, music. So you already got 2 items that consume. And then the third one almost doesn't matter. But artifacts and mythology are a good skill for your bard. But in my case, I'm going to go ahead and just put 2 points in close combat and 1 in sword and 1 in shield. Like that. And then remember, this is just a throwaway party. We're not actually going to play this for the whole game.
Sure, Dad.
Alright, we're going to go ahead and go with her. Alright, so then I said we could do a gadgeteer. Now this is probably the most controversial one. With the gadgeteer, there's a lot of options. The Mook is a pretty popular one. But again, like I said, the Hobbit is just perfect for almost anything. It would work in this case. The Fairy is one that you probably don't want to do in your first game. They're really difficult. They can barely wear any armor. They get a +2 AC bonus to try to compensate for it, but it really doesn't. And then they have reduced carrying capacity, so you're always going to have carrying capacity issues. That's why you have to be more of an expert played the game a few times, do not pick fairy. As far as everything else, though, the Felper, this minus 15 to water is horrible because you could get frozen, which means you don't get to take your turn. And that's the problem with the Felper. The Felper, though, is fantastic. Look at the dexterity and speed. I mean, these are cats. That is such an amazing dexterity and speed. So the Felper and the Lizardman are amazing classes that have huge weaknesses. And those weaknesses will burn you, and it'll be hours into the game by the time you run into the enemies that do start burning you, but they will, and it makes the late game harder. The early game is easier, so you're doing a trade-off there. Now the Ray Wolf are really good class for piety, which you need for spells, healing spells. So the Ray Wolf and the Dwarf are both great piety classes. The Elf, of course, is a good magic class, and so is the Gnome. The Gnome being really low on speed is its key issue, and then the Elf is low on vitality. Okay, so those are the issues with them. The Mook it's a special race that's specific to this game. They're basically, they look like Wookiees, and they're strong like Wookiees. Their big thing is they're low piety and low speed, because they're big and clunky. What else? That covers it. Like I said, the Hobbit, look at their stats. They're pretty balanced. The piety is the only thing low on a Hobbit. Everything else is starting minimum of 40. That's why I'm saying it's like one of the best races in the game. Because you'll always have bonus points left over with the Hobbit, like in this case. Now, the human is not bad either. Because you can see the dexterity is really high with the human. Well, actually, with the Hobbit, it's the same. So let's see. I noticed a 30 and a 50. So 50 on speed, 30 on piety. And that becomes a 45 piety, 45 speed. So you can see the human got 15 more points in piety, but lost 5 points in speed. Has a bonus of 25. The problem is piety for a gadgeteer is useless. This is actually arguably better. Now, this one, I would also argue, you could do male or female, but you could choose to do female with this one for the same reasons, for the stamina stuff. Okay, what does a gadgeteer do? They expert in engineering. They make items. So you can find items in the game, combine them together to make, like, a powerful item. Now, they also use this thing called an Omnigun. And the Omnigun, let's just go ahead and get in here. So I'm going to do dexterity. These guys are like archers. So you're going to go ahead and put some in senses to improve his archery. And then if you do speed, he'll shoot more than once. And we're going to do exactly that. We're going to do speed. So there we go, 30 points in. And then they use modern weapons. This game has sci-fi in it. So you're going to, there's going to be aliens and there's going to be laser blasters and stuff like that alongside, two-handed swords. So there's a lot of alien tech in this. The Omnigun is your alien tech. So here you can see the Omnigun, the modern weapon, is controlled by dexterity and speed. So if you raise dexterity and speed on the character, it improves the modern weapon. And then the more you use the modern weapon, the more this will go up on its own. They can also do locks and traps, the gadgeteer, so if you don't have a rogue in your party. Engineering is unique to them. And this is their ability to use the gadgets that they make. So you want to basically get that up. And then, of course, they're doing range combat. Now, the key thing with the gadgeteer... I know, I'm not being real creative here.
I would be honored to assist your brave band in its explorations.
Let's do the other one.
You're going to need someone of my superior intelligence.
That's an engineer,
Some
right?
call it ego, but I call it talent.
I call it narcissist, but that's okay. Okay, so there you go. You got your 4. Then I said create 2 magic users, right? Arguably speaking, the bard acts like a magic user. And arguably speaking, so does the gadgeteer. So one of the things you may want to consider doing is instead of making the Gadgeteer, I would recommend you make a Ranger. Now, a Ranger, if you recall, is one of the advanced classes. But the Ranger has this skill that none of the other ones have. And we're going to do Dexterity, Senses, get the speed up, Scouting. So, there's hidden items all throughout this game, and somebody with Scouting ability automatically detects them. And the Ranger is the only class in the game that can auto-detect those hidden items. Otherwise, you have this button you have to turn on searching. And so you could still find those hidden items without a Ranger, but you have to turn that button on. And if any enemies encounter you while that button's on, they get surprise advantage on you. Every time. So you could spend the whole game with that button on and not miss any hidden items, but then the enemies are constantly surprising you every time they find you. The Ranger is the only way to avoid that. Now, as people play this game, they're going to start to memorize where hidden items are. Or they're going to know, hey, there's a hidden item over here somewhere. I don't remember what it is, but I just know there's a hidden item. And they'll know when to turn that on and when not to. And so that's going to be your call, how you want to do it. But I would recommend, like, the Gadgeteer is fun to play because you can assemble items and make these really cool gadgets. Like, for example, I found a box and then I found a doll. I combine them together and I make this Jack-in-the-Box. And then it pops up, and when you use the Jack-in-the-Box, it casts terror on all the enemies. But the Ranger, in my opinion, you take it for the scouting and just the scouting alone. And then, of course, you want to get your range combat and your bow. And then maybe some mythology wouldn't hurt. But that's really what you want to do with the Ranger. And then we'll just call him... Oh, see, now I alt-tabbed. So I'm typing, and then nothing's happening. So I have to hold down the Control and Alt key. And now I can... So, Ranger Danger. And...
There are two kinds of people, hunters and their prey. Let me assure you, I am one of the hunters.
Alright, so we'll go ahead and get him in. And then, now we could do a party that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these guys, right? And then you could keep the Gadgeteer and the Ranger if you want. The thing that you're sorely lacking is some spells. The Gadgeteer will... The items that they use is like casting a spell. And the same with the Bard. When the Bard does his music, it's like casting a spell. So the music and the gadgets will do the equivalent of like a wizard, terror spell or a psionic terror spell. The Bard has a lot of psionic spells in its repertoire, and then the Gadgeteer, it's more across the board on that one. But yeah, the other thing I forgot to mention is the Omnigun, this gun that they have. As you level up, the gun levels up with you. So over time, that gun will start blinding the enemies, and then it'll start blinding and stunning, and then eventually it auto kills. Like it'll do an instant kill on the enemy, but that's not until a higher level. So the gun you start the game with is the gun you're going to use throughout the whole game, and all you need to do is just level up, and your gun gets better. So that's the thing with the Gadgeteer that makes it super powerful. I would tell you that the Gadgeteer sucks in the early game. Like it's a character you have to carry. It doesn't do much for you in the beginning of the game. In fact, it's like a wasted spot. But as the game goes on, there's an early, mid, and then late game to this. Mid and late game, the Gadgeteer becomes ultra powerful. So you got all these other characters that are super powerful in the early game, and then towards the late, they're not quite as powerful. The Gadgeteer is one of those ones you build to get better as the game goes, and then you hope that everybody else can carry him until you get there. Okay, then to do your stuff here, we do a priest, and like I said, Raywolf is an excellent priest. So is the dwarf. To be quite honest, I like humans myself, because I don't like low intelligence, but the Ray Wolf works. And, you know, you want to get the piety up on a priest, and you could argue that the intelligence needs to also go up, but see, it doesn't really do much for divinity. And, but what else would you spend your points on when you're a priest? That's the thing. So you're going to spend it on intelligence anyways. So we do that, and you could say, hey, I want more vitality or speed, right? Because you can cast your spells a little quicker. And go ahead and do a female. And out of all these, you know, what do you want to start the game with? Well, if you want to start healing people from the start, you better take heal wounds, or otherwise you'll never be able to. And then this bless spell is pretty awesome. So we're going to go ahead and take that. And you get your divinity up. And it doesn't hurt to get this going. These will raise on their own as you cast spells. We got the communication covered. See, the problem is we don't have artifacts or mythology covered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to... And the priest would benefit from a mason flail and even a shield. If you develop them properly, they can actually hold their own in the front line if you really wanted them to. But we're going to go ahead and put points in divinity, and we're going to go ahead and have the priest do mythology. Even though you can see communication's their thing. We'll go ahead and put 5 points in mythology, and we'll call it a day. And yeah. I know, I'm...
An adventure? Why, I'd be delighted to help you. It sounds most
The voices in this game are awesome. Alright, so we got our 6 party there. It's a little weak on the... So you're using the gadget and the bard to do most of your magic. This could be challenging for a first-time player. So I'm going to say skip the gadgeteer for now. Use the ranger. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a mage. And of course we're going to make that an elf. And we're going to pump up the intelligence, the piety, and the speed. And then energy blast for sure. Then we're going to go ahead and do frost. We're going to make it an attacking mage. Here you can see the wizardry needs to go up. Now the mage starts with 8 in all the realms, which is an excellent start. You know, I want him to be good at fire, so I could put more points in fire, but we're going to put 5 points in artifacts, because remember we said we needed to cover that. And in fact, I got 5 points to spend. The bard has the communication, the priest has the mythology, so I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to pump up the fire magic, and you're going to see real quick how this plays out. And so we're going to go ahead and do mage, and then
one may feel fear in the face of danger, so long as one banishes fear when danger actually arrives. So say the wise.
Boy, the wise use a lot of words. Alright, okay, so now we got to add our characters to the party. The party does matter. Don't obsess over this too much. But basically, you want to add your upfront guys first. The bard is actually the next best upfront. Then the ranger. And then the mage. And the priest. Right? So I skipped the gadgeteer, even though I built one for you. And then let's go ahead and jump into the game.
Grimpak the Mook hired you as an escort for a long voyage. He didn't say a word about where he was going or how long it would take. You were astonished to see such a huge metal ship. Grimpak must be a very great wizard to make such a thing sail. As soon as you entered, the ship set sail. That metal ship went straight up, making a sound like 1,000 angry dragons. For a long time, you sailed through the endless...
I'm sorry, it's showing up only on the quarter of my screen whenever it does these videos.
Grimpack broke his long silence.
The time has come to tell you the purpose of my trip. My fellow Mook have discovered an extremely unusual artifact. This has led them to a world called Dominus, where they are investigating a native ritual called the Ascension. They have asked me to assist, but there is some danger involved, so I have brought you along as protection. We will be landing shortly. Our descent may be a bit difficult.
As you begin your descent, your craft comes under the baleful watch of the Dark Savant and his black ship.
Master, we have detected a ship.
I arrived too late to stop the others, but these intruders will never enter the circle!
What should I do?
Destroy them!
The shock of the attack throws you to the deck. For a time, all is dark. Slowly, your senses return. You have washed up on a beach among the rest of the crash debris. It's a miracle that you're still alive, but your biggest challenge is still ahead of you. Your ship is gone. You're stranded on a strange world, and somewhere, far above, the Dark Savant awaits. You turn toward shore and plan your next move.
Okay, so my game always goes to my desktop whenever it happens, but that's okay.
We crash. We're alive. That is most important thing.
Oh, I love the voices in this game. Okay, so I'm holding down my right mouse button, and if I hold down my left, I move forward. So that's how I move around in the game. There are 3 different views. Like this is the fully expanded out. Then this gets rid of the bottom panel. I like the middle view, so I'm fine with it. This is a radar, and here you can see there's some crabs moving in the water. And there's also some crabs ahead of us. Crabs are enemies in this game, so we will be definitely fighting them in both places. But the ones in the water won't come out of the water, and they only attack us if we go into the water. So the other crabs, you might be able to see them, but they're right up here. They're sort of difficult to see, but if I hover my mouse over it... Now, the fact that I can see that he has 12 hit points, that's my mythology at work. That mythology skill. And then if your mythology skill goes higher, these little question marks fill in. So what we're going to do is we're going to move forward and loot this chest, because this chest is always random. And there's like a pool of random things it can come from. Like this one, I don't remember ever getting the Amulet of Static. But we're going to go ahead. Some of them are unidentified. And I'm just going to put everything in the party. I'm going to hit I. And you can see you got your characters. You have stats on how much damage they're going to do and how many swings they do. Perfect level stats. You can view their defense modifiers based on their race, the penetration. It is a fantastic game. This is perfect. Like, the information is perfect. The availability of the information is perfect. This is their resistances to the different levels of magic, different realms. And then this would be spells if they had any in their spell book. And then this is their skills. So here you can see that his range combat goes up to a certain point, and then he gained this much. So he's at 16 now. And how or why he gained that little bit of range skill, I don't know actually. We didn't actually do any battling or anything, but he gained skill. And then here you can see he has current personal effects. The short bow gives him a -1, and the bundle of arrows gives him drained stamina 2% for a special attack. So this is my ranger, and I can switch between characters at any time. And going back to here, this is your primary weapon slot. This is your secondary. So these are throwing daggers. This is a bow in his primary. And then if you right-click on any of these, your characters will try to identify them automatically. So these question marks mean that I can't identify them yet. I've never started the game with so many unidentified things, but that's alright. This one has an energy blast, gives you plus 5% versus mental. So remember, who has the weakness to mental? This guy. So if we come back over to here, you can see his mental resistance was 15, and now it got increased to 20. Now you might be wondering, well, hey, I thought you said it was minus 10. It is minus 10. Because if you look at this next guy, that one has 40. So he's only at 20. So you need a mental resistance of 100 to completely block it out. So anyways, that helps offset. And then we got this feathered hat, which has a plus 2 AC. We'll give it to our rogue. Be thematic. Alright, and then the last thing you want to do before you get into battle with these crabs is you come here to your party formation. And this is awesome. So, for example, I can put the fighter up in the front row. I can put the rogue in the side. And then I can put the bard. Now, you might be wondering which one's which. The bard has purple letters, so bard's the purple guy.
Ready and willing.
And then, you know, the ranger is blue letters, so that's the ranger, right? And then this is the magician, and that's the priest. So now I have all 4 flanks covered, and my 2 magic users are in the middle protected. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is I like to bring them all back like this, and do that. So I leave the front flank empty, and then the side flanks and the front all have like basically a front wall. And so if this guy is next to somebody to hit them, so are these. So everybody just got rearranged, and now here we go.
Let's do it.
Oops, I'm facing the wrong way. So I'm going to right click on this, and see, here's my front flank. So you can see that I am facing them. I could be facing this way, right? This shows where I'm facing. If my front flank was down here and they were behind me, then they can come up and attack my magic users. But so what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that we're facing them so we can hit them. And so I'm going to tell my party I want to walk.
Very well.
And then it's basically saying this is turn-based. And then my fighter, I can put him into berserk mode.
Out of reach.
And it won't let me do it until there's somebody in range, so I guess I'm stuck. Let's try. Yeah, okay, there we go. I got him into berserk mode. Now this guy, that symbol means he's going to use his sling. So if I hit... Well, he's going to use a throwing weapon. So he's currently got his throwing knives equipped. And see how this here? They auto-swap. Now I could do this. That forces him to use his primary weapon. But right now he's going to throw. And if you'll notice, the AC changes. The armor class is for each individual part of the body. So his legs have a 1 armor class, but his feet have a 3. So where the enemy hits you matters. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and throw a dagger with him. The bard has a poet's lute. So we're going to go ahead and use that right away. And, okay, if you ever wonder, like, what does it do? So he's going to try to hit all 3 crabs. And you right click on it, it'll tell you. It'll try to put them to sleep. This is a picture of all the different classes in the game. And it's basically saying that all of these classes can use the poet's lute. But the only class that has music skill is the bard. So even though these other classes could try to use that instrument, they won't have a music skill to help them. Alright, so...
With pleasure.
So you could cast the music on a group. So there's 3 crabs in one group. It is possible I could have had 2 crabs in one group and 1 crab in another group. And then he would have to pick which group he's trying to put to sleep. But in this case, all 3 crabs are one group. Now, you may also notice that the bard has the purple letters on him. And notice these little purple triangles. So the purple triangle is on all 3 of them. That's because he's targeting all 3. The rogue here is going to try to throw his knife. And I can change it to throw his knife to this one instead of that one. Okay? And then the ranger is doing the same thing. He's shooting this one. And then we got our our wizard, our mage. So we're going to go ahead and cast a spell. And then watch this. This is what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to do a water spell, which is Frost. Alright, remember he started the game with 8 skill level in Frost. So he can cast a power level 1. Now let's right click on it. The damage is 1 to 7 damage per power level. Okay? So with the skills that he started the game, he can do a power level 1 and it's green, which means that it's 99% chance it's going to hit. Or that the spell will be successful. Whether or not it hits and does damage has to do with their spell resistance, of course. But see, look, if I do power level 2, it's orange. That means you got a lot less chance. And then look at this. Power level 3 is red, which means you got almost a 0% chance, right? So the spell will fail, and sometimes if you cast a spell at red, it'll hit your own party members, or hit yourself, for example. So let's be safe. We're just going to do... And then this is the number of mana points that they spend. So that would spend 6 mana points. We're just going to spend 2. But now let me go over to the fire. Remember, we have the energy blast. Remember, I put 5 points into fire? Look at that. Level 1 is green, but level 2 is yellow, and level 3 is orange. So you just see how, like, in the other one, level 3 was red, and then this one was orange. So those extra 5 points that I put into the fire realm is the difference between the colors. I hope that's making sense, because that's really what I was trying to explain earlier. So putting points into your realm, the fire realm, makes it easier to go higher power on the fire spells. So like I could actually try to do a yellow power level 2. And I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to choose who I'm going to hit. I'm going to hit the guy in the back. Alright? And then the priest. We got a couple options here. We have Bless, which is very important, because what Bless does is it targets the whole party, and it magically increases their armor class, and aids them at hitting their targets. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to do the guaranteed one for 4. And let's go ahead and hit the check mark to say we're ready. Alright, so we chose to walk, which means that they get to go first. Even if we had the initiative, they get to go first, so they're moving towards me, which I sort of wanted. And then now they're trying to flank me. So now I can spin my party around, like pay attention here. So now my front group is facing these, and then my side flank, purple, which is the bard, are facing these two. And I'm going to switch this way. Now my front flank is facing these two, and my green, which is the rogue, is facing the guy on the left. You see that? And then, if you'll notice, this is no longer throwing a knife. It switched to his sword. It auto-switched for us. And if you'll also notice, this is no longer red, because now there's an enemy in range. The game takes care of all that for you. All you had to do was make sure you're in range. Now, I could choose to run into the water right now, and if I do, see, look, it went red. Because there's nobody in front of him. Like, there's nobody for him to swing at. So by moving around, now these two are in range for him to swing at, and he's going to go after this one. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm actually not moving. All I did was spin the party. And then let's go. So he missed. He hit for 2. He has dual weapons. We just cast our sleep spell. Alright, we just killed him. The wizard, the mage is powerful. That was a very powerful. Alright, we got all of our guys focused on this last one. We can go ahead and... you want to always keep casting, because if you keep casting, it raises your skills. And then for the priest, they do have this pray ability, which is... pray is like you're praying to the gods to intervene, and they may or may not help you. It's a special ability that only the priest has. It's pretty cool. I think it gets better as the game goes on. There you can see everybody. So there you go. The prey actually... I think it gave her a guardian angel. So here we go. We earned 111 experience points. And then it would have told us if some of our skills went up. But we killed him so fast that the skills didn't even go up. Now that I see something moving, or the crabs that are running around in the water,
Look there.
And then see that ranger that has the so this, we're not searching, but the ranger auto searches. And so what he did was he found, see these little white dots? The white dots are items. So we found some bullet stones. So we're going to go ahead and pick those up. And then we found some more bullet stones over here. And then what we want to do is we want to find a corner like this. That's probably not a good corner. This is a better corner. Okay, why do I want to find a corner? I'm spinning my guys around, so my back end, so no enemies can come through the wall behind us, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to camp and recover our mana points. And it also does some healing, etc. Now, while you're camping, something can, like creatures can spawn and surprise you. And if you don't have this wall behind you, they'll be behind you, potentially. And that's the worst thing you want, is to be ambushed from behind. So all my strong guys are up in the front row, and so by backing into the corner like this, that allowed me to be able to protect the party if we got ambushed. The other thing about this is that different spots in the game have different chances of being ambushed. If I go out here and camp in the middle of the field, and hit the camp button, I got a lot higher chance of being ambushed, because the game just punishes you for not being in a nook and cranny.
I see something moving.
Alright, so we're going to go after these crabs now. You can see them in the water right in front of us. I'm moving towards them. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and get that bless spell going again. We're going to go ahead and do
Very well.
frost.
Very well.
And I'm going to do the walk strategy again, because they moved towards us, and then notice that they just went right in range of our weapons. And then we're going to position ourselves like so, and then boom. So he missed. Yeah, so the fighter missed twice now. The bard just killed somebody. Frost spell. Alright, so he swung and missed him, so he said sucker. Alright, we'll do the prey. We're gonna go ahead and do... Let's switch back to the energy blast. We'll do a later one. I'm gonna switch it to there. And then it probably doesn't hurt to do Poet's Loot. Now, if you are missing too much, you can switch to the regular attack. The Berserk attack does double damage, but it misses more, as you have noticed. So he just attacked twice. We just did 2 damage. None of them fell asleep. Nobody answered our prayer. There we go. So that fighter just did 17 points of damage. There we go. We just got 111 more, and then nothing else. So none of our skills have gone up yet. And I'm going to go ahead and find another corner. This is not a bad spot. Alright, so casting spells, just for the sake of casting them, is what we would call training your spells. And, yeah, so we're finding some hidden stones on the ground. What are the stones for, you might be asking? I don't know if anybody has a sling. Yeah, right here. So, the spells are just for the sling users. So they're carrying 100 bullets for their sling. And we don't have anybody else with a sling at the moment, so... so, yeah, it's just one person who has that. Okay, and then, if you're wondering, we got 222 experience. We need 1,000 to level up. And we just did our resting and all that stuff. If I wanted to cast spells... See, these are both offensive. And then here I got the heal wounds. So before I rest, I should probably be healing wounds. And then what that does is that every time you use a skill, you have a chance of increasing it. So I missed out on a couple opportunities to increase.
Wait a minute. I think
I think
I see something
I'm rushing a bit because I don't plan on playing a full playthrough of these characters. I want to show you different characters than this. So they're moving towards us. I could hit this at any time
go on and fight.
to start the battle, which is what I just did. And I'm going to go ahead
Very
and
well.
cast the Bless again. The Bless, of course, increases the AC. And then let's turn up the heat. I want to do a little bit more damage. And we're going to go after the bigger
Very
guy.
well.
And then do the walk
Under
trick
control.
again. So they're soft-shell crabs. And once they're done moving, we can click on this to see. Now you might be wondering, what do these numbers mean? Basically, let's see. Here we go. Right-click on it. There's 5 of them are active, 5 are in range, and 5 in view. So sometimes the creatures can run away because they're afraid of you. So some of them could be in range of you to hit. Some of them are out of your range. Some of them you can at least see them, but they're not in range. You know, that's what these mean. And then all 5 are active, which means they're not asleep. I forgot to do the bard thing, but we'll do it later. And once again, I just told them to move because I wanted them to come towards me. It's a trick in this game. If I didn't tell them to move, these guys would have defended because there was nobody in range. And by making them move first, I'm able to attack with both of my guys in the first combat round. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. So now we're throwing because these guys are just out of reach. There we go, we killed 2 of them already. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pray.
Very well.
Let's cast the spell again. It's doing level 1. Oh, because I don't have enough mana points to do level 2 anymore. And I'm going to do the walk trick again. Because see, he would swing at nothing right now.
Okay.
Oh, I almost forgot. We want to do the Poet's Lute.
With pleasure.
Alright. Here we go. Miss. See how much the yellow was the stamina bar? The stamina really dropped. There we go. Alright. So these guys are asleep. So I have to do the walk.
Pleasure.
And no one's taken any damage. So I don't even have a spell to cast with this one. And then we're going to switch over to the Frost and just keep the attacks going. So we're going to just pick one. I'll pick this guy. This one has 20 hit points. We already killed him. Hit that one for 11. And boom. When they're asleep, you do double damage. So we just got 269 more experience. And not enough to level up, but we're close. And then up here there's a whole bunch of stuff, including some hidden items. And there's a sling. Let's give the sling to the rogue. And there is a battle axe. I mean, I just told you axes stink, but you do start the game with an axe. If you tried to start the game with a mace, none of the other ones have one. See, they started the priest with a staff, even if you wanted to do a mace. And I do have a bad habit of giving everything to the character on the bottom right. So, I'm just unloading the inventory. Nobody's leveled up yet. So here, I do have some throwing knives. I can wait until those run out and then put a sling in. Or you know what, let's just do it now. I have a habit of forgetting those. And I know we have stones. I just picked up a bunch of them. Where did they go? There's 15 there. I would swear we picked up more stones than this. These, of course, are filters. I guess we don't have any stones, so, anyways. So this is clear. Now we gotta go back down. Oh, I guess it wouldn't hurt to get our magic points back. Oh, I forgot to show you. At the end of the battle, the Ranger's artifact skill went up by 1. Mage's artifact skill went up by 6. That was from us taking items. So they try to identify items the moment you pick them up. So even people without artifacts do raise up their skill. And when we did our last battle, Fighty's sword went up to 14, and Ranger's range combat went up to 17. And so if we come over to Fighty here, we look at skills, his sword went up to 14, and that's why it's green. Well, actually, no, I think that might be green because that's his bonus. And then it also shows you the yellow because it's the best in the party. So, but anyways, he went up to 14, and skills went up on their own. Like, I didn't have to spend any points. That's the key thing to understand with this game, is sometimes you can get the skills to go up without you having to do it. And then I'm just going to come back. And remember, we crash landed. We're in this little area. And a couple of things for you to notice. There is a fire up here. We're going to eventually get there. There's a waterfall here. We're eventually going to go down the waterfall. We went up to this thing. And I know that's glowing green, but there's nothing to be had there. It's glowing green, yes, but there's nothing here. So, just a green glowing area. And I think this is supposed to represent pieces of our ship. You know, crash landing. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the monastery. And we go.
Suspicious of danger in this area.
You're very wise. Then right here is going to be some green goo. Alright, so there's 2 groups. And they're even match.
With pleasure.
We're going to go ahead and do the Poet's Loot on the 3 greens. So they're not even in view. So I can't do it. So I'll do it on the 2. Always cast the Bless. I'm going to start off with the Frost spell.
Very well.
Let's go. Now, it may look like nothing's happening, but see, these guys are moving off screen. Like they're coming down and around the corner. Like this guy did. See, there's another one that's coming out. So even though it looks like nothing's happening, it's just you can't visibly see them. They're moving, and then this guy's moving. So we got 4 guys here now. There's all 5. All 5's in front of us. So these are the 3 we were waiting on, and then these are the 2. So this is the 3 group, and then this is the 2 group. So I'm not going to move. I'm just going to stay here. Miss. They only have 10 hit points, these guys. See if we can get them to go to sleep. 1 did. Arrow worked. Frost worked. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pray. We're going to go ahead and do Frost again. And then I would like to target him instead. And then let's do the Poet's Loot, but this time on those 3. Boom. Okay, 2 of them fell asleep. Missed. And we killed him. Alright. So I'm gonna go, let's do an energy blast. These guys are pretty easy. Alright, so the process of moving up used up so much initiative that the ranger went dark. So their whole turn was consumed by the moving. And there we go. We gained 274 more experience. The dagger skill of the rogue went up. And we still haven't leveled up. That will happen the moment we go up to the top of this platform. Sometimes there's a bad guy in here. This time there was not. Gonna go pick up these arrows. Give them to our ranger. See, artifacts went up. Just because they were identifying those arrows. So that made the artifact skill go up.
See creature.
Alright, this guy is tough. The next one. So we're going to go over here and we're going to camp. I don't think anybody took any damage, so I can't cast a heal spell. Oh, if you cast a healing spell on somebody who's full health, your skills will not increase. The only time your skills increase is if there's a tangible benefit from those skills.
Stay with me.
Alright, this guy is mighty. This is a tougher battle. Much tougher, in fact.
Very well.
If you plan your spells wisely,
Very well.
you should be okay.
Under control.
You have to run up to him because he shoots. He's totally fine with being at range. There we go. I just took 5 damage. Alright, so notice the move up. The fighter's turn is over. So, because we used half of his movement points there. But everybody else gets to go. And I keep forgetting to use the bard thing. I'm Alright, so we just hit it for some damage.
With pleasure.
We're going to go ahead and go again. Energy Blast. The Bless still needs to be cast. Because he's a range, he can attack the people in the back row. So nobody's protected. Just did 2 more. Got the Bless going. Of course. Oh my gosh, we killed it. 478, and then boom. Everybody's getting a level.
Darling, I just keep getting better.
I prosper with the will of destiny.
Delightful.
And then the fire magic went up. Now, one thing I keep saying, so before I rest, I can
Present.
do a heal wounds. This is they'll cast it again and again until they can't be healed anymore. It only took 1. So so basically nothing happened, but that's all right. We're coming in here. This is the Book of Light. The light spell can be used by the magicians and the priests, which we have. So I get to pick which one I want to give it to. The magician is the better choice here because she's got real strong fire. Although you could argue that the priest should maybe do it so she could level up her priest skills, but that's okay. You really can't make a mistake.
I see something.
Some of this is power leveling nonsense I'm talking about. Alright. So, there's a lot of things that we can't identify. If you hit this question mark, it shows you what all of them are. When we level up, we might be able to identify a few of these. I gave her a book, so this is a use item.
Most
And so
encouraging.
now she just learned the light spell. And so one of the things she can do is she can always cast light. And then it shows up here the cast spells you have. So there's 721 turns remaining, and as time ticks by, the turns go. The game goes by in real time. The longer you stand here, something like this does pause it. But okay. So one of the advantages of a Lizardman fighter is we're only 20 points away from hitting the coveted 100, and then you could pump up his vitality. But in this case, he's been missing a lot, if you may have recall. So I'm going to pump up his dexterity, because that helps him to hit more. And then we get 9 points. Again, 3 points. I can spend 1 point in 9 different skills, but I'm going to go ahead and just keep cranking the areas here. And then for the bard, we got a similar thing. Let's get the dexterity up, and then the vitality. And we're going to do music, communication, And what was the third one going to be? I probably should have done mythology with the bard, to be quite honest. But I'm going to go ahead and do sword, shield, and close combat. One of each. The rogue, dexterity and senses. Get that locks and traps up. Get the stealth up. And then dual weapons, close combat, and dagger, one of each. Priest. We want piety, intelligence. We probably don't necessarily need intelligence with the priest, but that's okay. I'm going to save my spell. I don't necessarily want any of these at the moment. I'll go ahead and go to the next page. Increase that up. I could boost this some if I want. I'm okay. Let's get the mythology going. And then, you know what? Let's get these up. The key thing with these realms, they'll build on their own. The realms will go up on their own. All you have to do is just cast spells in those realms. But I'm telling you, having a 0 in these realms is brutal, because you're going to get red circles even at power level 1. So if you can get this to each of these to at least 3, then they'll be able to at least cast level 1 spells with it being yellow. So it won't be, red. And then for our wizard, or a mage, we're going to go ahead and pump up these two. We get to take another spell. I'm also going to hold on to a spell point. And then I'm going to crank up the wizardry, the artifacts, and we get to do something else. Look, she's already at 8 of everything else. I mean, it's really, to be quite honest, it's difficult to justify putting more points in all this. Really, she could handle mythology or something else, but what we could do is throwing in sling, because we can eventually give her a sling so she can at least be good at hitting creatures when she's not casting spells. But I'm going to go ahead and let's make the fire magic. Let's make fire magic great again. Alright, so there's a level up. And what he's saying is he sees enemies out here through the glass. So we're safe. There's nothing coming. Alright, so this is the monastery. We're in the lower level of the monastery. There's an upper level. And there's some enemies right up here you could see. But one of the things I'm going to do is I had made the prediction that we'd be able to identify some of these. So let's try. I'm just right-clicking on each. Now, it was my mage who had the artifact skill that went up. I could have any of these people selected. It doesn't matter. All the party members basically it uses whoever the best party member is. And I can't identify any of these, so getting an extra 3 points on artifacts did not make a difference in this case, and that's okay. We don't need any of those items at the moment. And we got another battle coming. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead. I forgot to rest. But look, I can use level 2 now, green.
Very well.
We'll go ahead and do that.
Very well.
In fact, I'm out of spell points, so
With pleasure.
I'm in a bit of a pickle, but these guys should not be too big of a pushover. Unless you miss him like he just did. Here we go. And look, my wizardry and bow skill both went up just from one shot. Alright, I gotta get camping. Camping is a dangerous adventure. See, look at it, right here. I'm being attacked by another bat. But it's an easy. We're gonna go ahead and camp again. And you can interrupt the camping, which is what I just did. As long as everybody's full, you're fine. The bard has a special unique ability that I don't know if it's double, but the camping benefits happen, I think, twice as fast. So normally you camp for 8 hours, and then everybody will be at full health, full magic after 8 hours. But with the bard, you could go 4 hours and get the full health, full. So everything's quicker with the bard. So that is good. And then, of course, I highly recommend you save your game. So, for example, this is the basic party. And the reason I recommend... Oh, I actually have one called Basic Party. I'm okay with overwriting it. I recommend you save your game because sometimes these monsters can surprise you
Pleasure.
and catch you off guard or catch you at a point where you're out of spell points, and then they can ruin your day. And these guys aren't going to ruin my day. And boom, the ranger just leveled up. You notice how that was delayed? Everybody else leveled up, and now the ranger is. Because remember, the ranger is an advanced class, so it requires a bit more experience than everybody else. So we're going to go ahead and get these two going. And get the scouting up. The range combat and the bow. And boom. And so then we rinse and repeat. And we would go through, currently, like I said, in the lower monastery. And then eventually the upper monastery. So, what I'm going to do is, now that I've shown you some of the basics of the game, I'm going to stop for a second and just talk brass tacks. So we talked about this here, the skills. Mr. Fighty here needs close combat. He needs the sword. He needs the shield, in this case. Those are leveling up on their own. He's already at 18, and when he levels up, he can put 3 in each time. Eventually, they're going to get to 100. Now, the only thing left for him to help out with is he can put some in the bow. We'll give him a bow and arrow, right? And then ranged weapons, right? So he'll have stuff to put points in. And then, artifacts, mythology, and communication, he could also try to help. Mythology is probably the one I would pick for him. It's a very simple class. And eventually you're going to run out of reasons to spend points. Like, you'll always have something to spend points on, because I could always just improve his mythology or whatever. But that's what I mean by basic. Now, the advanced class, this ranger, only has range combat, bow, and scouting. So you could say, hey, that's the same difference. Not quite. The ranger at level 4 gets alchemy. So he'll be able to cast alchemy spells, and then all the realms will come with it. So he has a whole bunch more stuff you want to spend points on. And so you can put points into his archery ability, and you can also put points into spellcasting. So he'll do both. And that's the reason why he's considered an advanced class. And then the expert class has a crap ton of skills available. And if you try to divide all your points between all the skills, you're going to have a crappy character. The ninja being the key one there. And so same with the bishop. Both of them have more skills than you can ever realize. And so it's a very big deal. Sorry, I had to pause there. Let me switch back over. Okay, so the advanced and expert classes are just as balanced as this fighter, basic class. Again, I will repeat, this fighter does more damage than any other character in the game. So why would I want something else? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Some of it is that these advanced and expert classes are a ton of fun to try to figure out, like, what's the way. You're almost like a mad scientist in your laboratory trying to figure out, like, how to make this archer who can also cast spells, like, do I really need to cast spells with this archer? And the answer is absolutely. It's fun. But you could ignore the spells completely if you wanted and just focus on archery. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's the part where these advanced and expert characters, and in my opinion, it's why this game is at the top. You could go basic because you don't want complicated. The rogue is also considered basic, right? These skills that you see are the skills he's going to have the whole game. Same with the bard. This is all you get the whole game. Even the magic classes. So this is a mage, and this is it. I think the other two realms will eventually be added, the divine realm once you learn a spell in it. But that's all you're going to get the whole game. And same with the priest. So these more advanced classes have more choices. And the problem is you can create a party with these advanced classes, and if you're not allocating your choices properly, those characters are going to stink. Like, they're not going to be very good at what you hope for them to do. And then you're going to get on a forum, and of course this game's from 2001, so these forums are 20 years old, but you could see it, and it's in the comments. Like, people get on the forum, this character sucks, I don't know how anybody plays it. And it's just because they're doing it wrong. And the thing about this is it's an amazingly complex game, and it just ticks all those wonderful boxes for me. Alright, I am at 2 hours, so I'm going to end this video. And there you go. I created a basic party. This party right here can take you to the end, and you will win the game with this party. There is no doubt about it. If this is the kind of party you enjoy having or want to enjoy doing, you can do it. So anyways, thanks for watching, and stay awesome.